Hello everyone, it's Mr. G. Today I'm going to bring you lesson 5 from our Java beginner tutorial. And today we're going to talk about if statements and getting user input. And I think we should just get right into it. So, what is an if statement? If statements are conditional program control statements that allow your program to make decisions on their own. It'll take a condition, evaluate whether or not it's true, and based on that, if it is true, it'll execute the code that you specify that comes after. If it is not true, then it'll just ignore that code completely. You cannot really make any kind of useful program without if statements and program control. And getting user input is obviously essential. It'll allow the program to interact with users and they can feed it information that it needs to run correctly. All right, so talking about if statements, we're going to set up an integer here. We're going to call it I, and we're going to set it equal to 18. All right, now we're going to test the value of 18 with our if statements. So we're going to say if, we're going to use that keyword, it turns orange, and we're going to put parentheses there. Now inside these parentheses, we're going to actually set up our condition. So we're going to say if I is equal to 20, let's say 20. So from the last lesson, we learned that to test equivalence, we have to use our double equal sign. So we're going to say if I is equal to 20, then we're going to put a left curly brace, and then we're going to hit enter, and that'll complete our block for us. This is our if block. And all the code that's in between these two curly braces is what's going to be a part of that if statement. This is the same thing like our main method here, or any method. You have your curly braces and all the stuff inside of it is part of the method. And we have the same thing for classes. And when we discuss loops, it'll be the same. So basically we use curly braces to set up a block of code in Java. Now, before I get into coding this, let's talk about comparisons and operators for comparisons. So we have equals, we have not equals. So equals is the double equal sign, and not equals is exclamation point equal sign. Then we have less than or equals to. We have less than. We have greater than, and we have greater than or equals to. So we can use these to, compare numerical values essentially. So if I is equal to 20, jumping back to our if statement, we're going to print out that I is equal to 20. All right, and that's it. That's the only code we need for this. Now you can have many lines of code under an if statement. It doesn't just have to be one. And actually, you don't even need the curly braces if it's just one line of code. Java is okay with that. So if we run this, it doesn't output anything because I is not equal to 20. So this would evaluate to being false. So it ignores this code here. Now, if we changed um, this to 18 and made it equivalent, then our output would be I is equal, well, it's not equal to 20 because we didn't change this, but um, let's just do that. So it can be the same. So I is equal to 18 because the value of I is 18. All right, so I'm going to change that back to 20 and this back to 20. I'm actually going to put the curly braces back in. To me, personally, it's more readable, but if you do only have one line, then you don't need the curly braces. But we're gonna add some more stuff because what if we want to test multiple things? regarding the same variable here. So that's only checking for equivalence. But what if we wanted to check to see if it's less than or if it's greater than 20 as well? So what we can do is type else if, and then we're going to set up our parentheses again. I is less than 20. After the parentheses, curly braces again, and we're just going to put our code inside those curly braces. So we're going to say I is less than 20. Fair enough. So let's run that. I is less than 20 is the output because the value of I is 18, and we check to see if it's less than 20. So imagine these I's aren't there. We have 18. If 18 is less than 20, then we do this. Is 18 less than 20? Yes, 18 is less than 20. So this is true. I is less than 20. So that's true. So it prints that. Now it'll start from the top and it'll say, okay, is I equivalent to 20? The answer is no. So this evaluates to false. It skips this entirely, and then it comes down to the next condition. Well, else if I is less than 20, which it is in this case, then it will execute this code. So again, it allows your program to make decisions on its own based on the input. Now, if we wanted to have a default case essentially, or in all other cases, then there's one more keyword that we can use with ifs to round out our statements. So we're going to use the else keyword. Now this time, if you use else, we don't need parentheses in a condition because this is all other conditions. So we're just going to put our curly brace, hit enter, and then we're just going to put here is greater than 20. And well, let's change this to 180. And now I is greater than 20 because it went here. This was false. 180, it does not equal 20. Then it came here. 180 is not less than 20, so it skips that. So it said, okay, well, if all of these are false, then do this. And that's what we did. Now, we could have done else if I is greater than 20, and we could have gotten the same output. Okay? Um, that doesn't matter, but that's what the else does. And the else makes it, just it's a little bit less work for you. So we just typed it out like that. Okay. And that's pretty much if statements in a nutshell. I mean, there's nothing really magical to them. You if, else if, else. And those words just help us because they're almost like English words. It's almost like you're talking. I don't know how many people use else, but in their everyday language, but it makes the programming a little bit easier to understand and learn. Now you can do if I equals 20, and then you can do if I is less than 20, and then do if I is greater than 20, and it's completely fine to do it that way, but this just looks a little cleaner, and most people would prefer um, ifs and else ifs and elses as opposed to a bunch of different if statements. But it's up to you how you want to structure it. All right, so now that we have if statements out of the way, we can do something with input now. So let's get rid of this, and now we will go back to lesson 2 when we talked about objects and classes. And the reason why that's important is because we're going to have to use an object to get this input that we want. So this will be the first time where we're going to be creating objects, but we're also going to be importing code. And so you'll see what I mean in a second. So rewinding back to that lesson, we learned that we had to say the name of the class, the name of the variable, and then it equals a new whatever that class name is. So let me demonstrate that again. So the class that we're going to use is called the scanner. And the scanner is used to take in input from basically input sources. And one of those input sources is the keyboard. So we can use that to get the input that we need. So I'm going to type scanner with a capital S. And we're going to just call it scanner equals a new scanner. All right. Now we've got an error here. And this error is because Java is like, we don't have this code. You need to import it or type it out yourself. So we're going to import it. Now there's two ways to do this. If you're using any kind of software like Eclipse, you can just hover over the word and we can import. There are two options here. I think there's actually a third one, but it's not popping up. But we want the java.util one. So we're going to click that. And that error goes away. We have another error. Now, you could just type this out. So we could type, you see how it went back, back to being an error there because we are not importing it currently. So import java.util.scanner and bingo, same thing. So, if you're using just like Notepad or Notepad++ or something, um, then you're gonna have to type that out manually. So just a small note there. And that's importing and bringing in the code that we need. If we look in this Java library, there's all kinds of stuff in here, and you can find all of this stuff that you can basically import to your programs in here. But we're not going to do that. Now, what is this other error here? So basically what it's looking for is the source of information, the source of the input. So it's going to be the keyboard, and the command for that in the scanner is system with a capital S .in. Okay. Now if you're paying attention, you notice that system.in looks a little familiar. Now the command that we've been using the most is system.out.println. And there's a difference. One is an input, this one, input from the keyboard, and system.out is output. And so now the output goes to the console. When we're getting this input here, it's coming from the keyboard and it's being used by our program. So, all right, now we have our scanner object. Cool. Let's create an integer variable and we'll call it age. And we're not going to assign any value to it yet. We're just telling Java, hey, there's this variable here. It's an integer. It's called age. We're going to use it at some point. And that's actually what it's telling us is that we're not using it. So the value of the local variable age is not being used. So just a little warning, it's not going to stop your program from running like the red lines do, but just something to watch out for. All right. So now that we have our scanner object and we have our age variable, let's do something with those. So the first thing that we want to do is prompt the user for their age. So we'll just ask them what their age is, and just with a normal print statement. So system.out.println. Okay, and we're gonna ask them how old are you? All right. So now they're gonna see that on the screen down here. What we're going to do is we're going to use one of the scanner methods or the methods in the scanner class to get the integer that they type in and save it in our variable age. So in order to do that, we need to take age. So type age and it's equal. So because we're assigning the value, scanner. And remember, when we're talking about objects, you can access their variables and their methods with the dot separator. So scanner dot, and we're going to take next int here. Okay, Can't forget our semicolon. So now we have this age variable is it should hold a value now. Okay. Now, based on what we just learned with if statements, I think we can have our program make a decision based on that output or that input for us. So um, type if age, and we're going to say greater than or equal to 18. Okay. We're going to type, we're going to display you are a legal adult. All right. Now we want to do another case. So now for that's anything over the age of 18. So we need stuff that's under the age of 18. So we're going to say else. And we don't have to set up a condition here because remember with else it's just kind of like everything else. Then we're going to type, whoops, you are still a minor. All right. So we have our scanner object, we have our age, we're prompting them for their age, they enter the information in, and we take that information and do something based on what that information is. And so we can run that right now and everything would work. But there's one more thing that we have to do. There is a yellow line here, and basically it's telling me that Java is trying to tell me that you need to close your scanner. You need to it's looking for information, but you know it hasn't been closed anywhere in the program, and basically it can lead to a resource leak as you can see here. So it's telling me to close it, so we'll just go ahead and do that with another method from scanner. So scanner dot close. Bingo. So we're using two methods here from the scanner class. Now these are two different examples or an example of two different return types. Here, this close method, it doesn't return any information. And we talked about that in lesson 3 when discussing methods and return types. It just does something and that's it. Now this next int method, it actually returns an integer value. It evaluates this and then it spits it out for the program to use. And so the program catches it here with this age variable, and that's the way that I had it set up. And you'll be doing a lot of assigning values to the results of methods and things of that nature. So we have a fully functional program here that I can't wait to run because this is the first of a lot for some of you guys. It'll be the first time you've imported code. It'll be the first time that you've actually had a program that does anything interesting. And, we're also learning how to get input and using if statements. So I'm going to save it and we're going to run it. And so the first thing that you see is this prompt of age. How old are you? So we're going to click down here if you're using Eclipse and we're going to put in 18 and we're going to hit enter. And this is the result that we get. You are a legal adult. That's what we expected. It's working properly. So we have our scanner object, have our age variable. The user is prompted. Now if you noticed, the program paused while it was waiting for me to get this age variable. And that's what the scanner will do. It'll with this line of code here, it pauses on the next from like the enter on the keyboard is what will execute this method. And um, yeah, so once we did that, we stored the value of scanner.next and into age, which was 18. That's what we entered, and it came to this first statement of the if statement or the first condition, and it says, hey, is age greater than or equal to 18? Well, what is the value of age? The value of age is 18 because that's what we entered here from the keyboard. That's what the scanner picked up and assigned to the age variable. So 18 is greater or equal to 18 because it's equal. So it executes this code and then ignores this else block, closes the scanner, and we're done. That's it. So we can try this with a different input here. So let's run it again. And we'll say I'm 67. All right. Well, that's clearly over the age of 18. So it outputs you are a legal adult. Again, evaluating here if age is greater than or equal to 18. 67 is greater than 18. So this is true. This condition is true. So it'll do this here, which is a print. All right. And let's run it one more time with a small age. Let's say 5. Let's say I'm 5. You are still a minor. Okay, that's the output that we would expect because we took the 5 from the keyboard, put it in this age variable. Once we got here, we tried to test this. If 5 is greater than or equal to 18, well, 5 is not greater than or equal to 18. So this evaluates to false, which means we're going to skip this line of code and we're going to come to this block here of code, block of code here, and then we're going to execute that, which it is just a print statement of you are a minor still. And then we close our scanner, which is not something that you see or notice, but that's the end of the program. So that's pretty much it. Scanner is not too bad. You know, we do have to import it. That's something that we're gonna have to do, and you have to get used to doing that at times. If you're coding in, Eclipse or NetBeans or something, imports aren't so bad, and there's different ways to do it. There's shortcuts. In Eclipse, you can type or press Control Shift O, and that'll import the things that you need. Um, so we did some of that today, importing something. We made our first like real program, and we got user input. That's exciting because now at this point you can actually create useful programs that can interact with another person. It's not just whatever you hard code into the program. This is, showing the power of variables as well, because this age variable can be anywhere from, you know, theoretically, like if a person is doing this, I don't think that many kids under the age of maybe 5 can understand what this means, but it can be a young child to someone who's over 100 years old. And so, you know, this value can vary, hence the name variable. So I think that's it for this lesson. Just a reminder, if you would like for me to cover something specific, or if you have any questions regarding anything that I've gone over in this video, don't forget to put it down in the comments. And I guess I'll see you guys next time.